compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, being Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, laws of the state of New Jersey, the Planning Board Secretary has prepared a schedule of the meetings of the Planning Board of the Borough of Kenilworth for the year 2021, and has posted a true copy of the schedule on the bulletin board located at the front entrance of Borough Hall, and has mailed true copies of the schedule to the local source and the Star Ledger, and maintains a copy of the schedule in Borough Hall. Accordingly, the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied in regards to this meeting. Can everyone please rise to salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a roll call?
Mayor Palovich. Here. Mr. Finestrella.
Here.
Mr. David.
Here.
Mr. Clementi.
Here.
Mr. Mazzio.
Here.
Mr. Ladowdy.
Here.
Mr. Colella.
Here.
Mr. Scuderi.
Here.
Mr. Demondo.
Here.
And Mr. DeLuca.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum to proceed. First order of business, I'm going to make an announcement. If there's anyone here who was, their purpose for being here was for application number 381-4-20, which was FDV Realty LLC, 460 Boulevard. The applicant has requested a postponement of tonight's hearing, and so that will be rescheduled. At this time, we don't know the exact date, correct?
Well, to avoid them renoticing and republishing, I think we need to adjourn it to August 12th. At this point, that's what they're asking for because of conflicts. August 12th in this room, 7 p.m., no further notice. If something happens between now and then, which it may, then we'll have a further notice.
Okay.
We canceled a lot of August meetings, so that's why we have it for August 12th, but we'll have to check and make sure.
Yeah, and if not, then we'll carry it again. But as of now, yeah.
Okay, so hopefully everyone heard that. The meeting is adjourned until August 12th, 7 p.m. Mr. O'Brien.
Mr. Rago, does that mean that this board would have to be in session to carry it from August to September?
Interesting question. I believe what we can do, and there's a recent case on this, we can probably, if we necessitate it, we can probably post information on the, in Town Hall and on the door, since we meet here, unlike Zoom. Worst case, if we can cobble together 5 people, even if we don't want to meet, if we cobble together 5 people to meet for 5 minutes just to carry it again and do whatever else that might need to be done, fine. But we can post information on the website, in Town Hall, and probably in the paper too, if we know for certain we're not going to be meeting in August.
Okay.
And that'll be sufficient.
Okay, so everyone has that. All right, and then we're going to go back onto the agenda. We are on item 4, which is approval of our April 8th, 2021 minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve? I see Mr. Scuderi on the motion. Do I have a second? Second. Mr. DeLuca has a seconded. All those in favor say aye. 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 Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Next is communications. Madam Secretary, any communications?
No.
All right, and moving right along, our next item is resolutions, and we have 2 this evening. Application 385, Solar Project, Kenilworth Board of Education, Harding School, and Application 386, Solar Project, Kenilworth Board of Education, David Brearley School. Mr. Arago, you want to?
Yes, at our last meeting, April 8th, the board may recall that we heard 2 presentations. They were called courtesy reviews. School districts, prior to spending public funds on school projects, need to come before the planning board. Not that we have a say, yes or no, but it's in front of us for a review, any comments if necessary. For the Warren G. Harding Elementary School and the David Brearley Middle and High School. We heard them both. The board was basically in favor of both of them. They thought it was a very good idea to put solar arrays on top of the roofs of those schools. I've drafted a resolution for each one, and we should do them separately, indicating that the board felt that it was beneficial to the borough, to the school district, and that there were no substantial negative impacts to the neighborhood, and we had no real recommendations over and above what the school board presented.
Okay. All right, so we need someone to make a motion to approve, or there is no approval, we just...
No, just like any other resolution.
Okay. So not everyone heard those, namely myself.
It's the people that voted,
Right.
that were here on the 8th and voted for what we did for the approval, which was everyone.
Okay.
Everyone that was here. So those people would be eligible to vote.
All right, so
on the
There's only 4 of them.
there is. Okay, so do we need a motion first, or?
Yes.
or- Yeah. So can you name the 4 who actually heard?
Fenestrella, Commenti, Mazzio, and Demondo.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay. Second. All right, we have a motion and a second.
This is for Harding first?
This is for Harding.
Harding, okay.
All right, roll call vote?
Mr. Fenestrella?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzio?
Yes.
And Mr. Demondo.
Okay, and for application 386, someone would like to make a motion?
Same people.
Motion.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Roll call vote?
Mr. Fenestrella?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzio?
Yes.
Mr. Demondo.
Great. Some members just came in.
Okay.
You might want to repeat that.
Yeah. All right, so I do see that some members of the public have arrived. At the beginning of the meeting, I did make an announcement that application 381 4-20, which is FDV Realty LLC, 460 Boulevard, that hearing has been adjourned again until August 12th at 7 p.m. So if you're here for that specific application, again, it will not be heard until August 12th. But you're welcome to stay otherwise. So just wanted to give you that in case you don't want to stay. Next item is master plan consistency review. There are 2 ordinances for us to review and determine if they are consistent with the master plan. Mr. O'Brien, would you like to give some guidance?
Let me swear Kevin in. Kevin, with regard to these 2 ordinances, do you swear that your testimony and comments shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay. Victor, do you intend to comment on any of these?
No.
Okay. All right, Kevin, you're good to go.
Good evening, board members, chair, mayor. A master plan consistency is a duty of the board that occurs after the mayor and council pass an ordinance that affects Chapter 120 of the Borough Code, which is the land use ordinance. Anytime that something is adopted that affects that part of the ordinance, the draft ordinance is sent to the planning board, and the planning board reviews it for whether or not the ordinance is consistent with or not consistent with the master plan. That is their sole obligation under these circumstances. So the board is taking a look at 2 ordinances this evening, 2 draft ordinances that have been introduced by council, referred to the planning board for their consistency review, and then upon a finding of this board whether they are or are not consistent, that communication will be sent to the mayor and council, and the mayor and council will then act upon a second reading of these ordinances at a future date. The first ordinance is 2021-06, which prohibits the operation of any class of cannabis businesses within the borough of Kenilworth. Within our master plan, adopted in 2011, on page 23, under item F, Foxtrot for Community, item number 1 reads, and I quote, "Maintain and improve Kenilworth's character and identity." I believe that this draft ordinance is consistent with that passage from the master plan, and the board may wish to consider that in their deliberation of consistency.
Okay. Board members, anyone want to comment, have any questions on ordinance 2021-06? Mr. Ladati.
During our last, I don't know if this works with our new master plan that we've been talking about, but we were talking about the possibility of considering warehousing cannabis, not the selling, but warehousing or growing, right? I mean, from our committee? Wasn't that brought up in our discussion?
It was, yes. I believe we're dealing with what our existing master
Okay,
plan
that's
is,
fine.
not...
That was my question, okay.
Right, not with what is the future, yep. Any other questions or comments? Board members? No?
The purpose of the ordinance overall?
Mr. Mazza?
If anyone, can explain as far as what we're trying to accomplish with the ordinance?
The ordinance prohibits all cannabis-related activity through August 22nd of 2021, which gives the borough time to consider whether they do or do not wish a cannabis-related industry within the borough limits. But at this point, it gives everybody time to figure it out. The fast tracking of the statute at the state level has given the borough very little time to react to it. So in order to find our time to realize what we wish to do as a borough, this is a stopgap that just stops everything until August, at which time the borough can or may not wish to pass something else that would allow in certain areas or allow only certain types, such as cultivation rather than retail or distribution rather than retail, because there's 6 different classes of cannabis-related industries. So this gives the borough time to figure out what they would like to do in the future.
Great, thanks.
It puts the brakes on. If we didn't have this, someone could come in and do pretty much what they want to do in any municipality, and we would be locked into that for, what, a 5-year period. So this basically says, do nothing until we come up with something that makes sense.
Anyone else? All right, if not, would someone like to make a motion either for or against the consistency of this particular ordinance to the master plan?
I'll make a motion for.
Okay, we have a motion for.
The motion is to find the draft ordinance consistent with the
Correct.
master plan.
And I will eventually do a resolution for next meeting, similar to the solar arrays. We'll do a basic
Okay.
resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All right. Let's have a roll call vote.
Mayor Karlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Finestrella?
Yes.
Mr. David?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzio?
Yes.
Mr. Ladowdy?
Yes.
Mr. Colella?
Yes.
Mr. Scuderi?
Yes.
Mr. Donato?
Yes.
And Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Okay. We will move on to the next ordinance, which is 2021-07. Mr. O'Brien.
Borough Mayor and Council adopted a redevelopment plan at one of their recent meetings, which is in a draft form, and like any other land use ordinance, has to come to the planning board for review as to whether or not it is consistent with the master plan. The actual ordinance that you have in front of you is an adoption of a redevelopment plan for the North 26th Street property. You're all familiar with that because this board was authorized by the mayor and council last year to conduct a study as to whether or not that piece of land was appropriate for redevelopment or not. And in a unanimous decision, this body adopted a redevelopment study finding that that block and lot were eligible for redevelopment. That matter was then sent to the mayor and council. Mayor and council then did their due diligence and have now adopted a redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan is treated much like a land use ordinance in that it's a plan for that particular piece of property. It lays out the standards for it, much like the bulk standards in any other zone. That's why it's before you this evening, so that you can decide whether or not it is or is not consistent with the master plan. I would point out that the 2011 master plan, under the housing element and under housing objectives, which is found on page 48 of the plan, under item A for alpha, states, although there is limited available land capacity where higher density inclusionary housing could be encouraged in the borough, appropriate residential development should be inclusionary and provide for a share of affordable housing as directed by New Jersey state statute. I would submit to the board that I believe that this ordinance is consistent with that passage in the master plan, and I welcome any questions.
Board members?
Thank you, Chairman.
No questions, no comments.
I'd like to make a motion for ordinance 20-2107 that is consistent with the master plan.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Can we have a roll call?
Mayor Karlovich?
Yes.
Mr. Finestrella?
No.
Mr. David?
Yes.
Mr. Clementi?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzio?
Yes.
Mr. Ladowdy?
Yes.
Mr. Colella?
Yes.
Mr. Scuderi?
Yes.
Mr. Demondo?
Yes.
And Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Okay. So that's carried. Again, the next item on the agenda was the application for FDB Realty, which has been adjourned until August 12th. So at this time, we are up to comments for the good of the board. Anyone on the board have any comments they would like to make? All right, and we'll move on to opening the meeting to the public. Someone like to make a motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Mr. DeLuca, second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the meeting's open to the public. If anyone would like to make a comment or ask, I should say make a comment, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr.
My name is
Herbert.
Walter Herbert, so I just want everybody to know that. I live at 14 North 12th Street. Okay? Ordinance number 2021-07. I asked this planning board chair and members to take a look at the last article of that ordinance, if you have it in front of you. And let me stop for a second. I just want to make it clear on the record, I'm in favor of this project. Okay? But we need to be transparent, and we shouldn't give the house away. So with that said, the last paragraph says the redevelopment plan requires the development of minimum of 25 or no less than 15% total number of residential units. I believe to make it fair for the contractor and make it fair for the borough, it shouldn't say minimum or no less. I feel there should be a set number, a max or a less, but that, should be discussed with the contractor and this board without giving the house away, but, being fair to come to a neutral ground that isn't going to hurt anybody. But in my opinion, the word minimum or no less, that means this project can be 100% very low income or low or moderate income, in my opinion. So I'm just asking this committee to take a look at it. I asked the mayor and council last night to look at it and just consider it. Whatever you decide, you decide. It's just my opinion. Okay? That's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Mr. O'Brien, you had a comment?
Chairman, the 15% number is rooted in the New Jersey state statute, which requires 15% set aside for rental apartments.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Anyone else from the public who would like to make a comment? Step forward. State your name and address for the record.
Savino Scarice, 18 North 19th Street. Originally was here, I guess that was postponed.
For FPB Realty? Yeah. Yeah, that was posted. It's adjourned till August 12th, 7 p.m. Yeah.
I think call was on. Anyway, I happen to hear all this. I would really hope you guys would resist overbuilding of Kenilworth. I see what's going on in other towns, just in apartment buildings, and just, I know that the master plan's kind of trying to cut out even two-family houses. If you don't like two-family houses, how do you go to an apartment building, which would be worse. I'm not familiar exactly. Is this behind L&J, what you were proposing, man?
The ordinance that was just approved as being consistent with the master plan, yes, it's on North 26 behind access storage. That's correct, yeah.
So how high is that? 3 stories? I'm not sure.
We don't have any of the details.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even where Blackthorn used to be, some of those areas, I know, I just wouldn't want to see 3-4 stories right here in the boulevard. That would really be tough. The parking is terrible right now, so to add more people would be just make a bad situation worse. I know on my street they have some duplexes. They just kill parking. There's only one car. When the second car comes in, they block the sidewalk. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. I know you're probably counting the garage, but they don't use the garage. Nobody does. So I just keep that in mind. It really is tough for parking. And that's about it then. I guess we'll be back. So it's 12?
August 12th,
That's
7
another
p.m.
call. I guess maybe I called too late.
Yeah, I mean, the decision that the hearing was going to be adjourned was only made like today.
Okay.
So it was kind of last minute.
No, these interest me anyway. It's good to know.
Yep.
I remember we used to be on the board of adjustment way back in the day. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay, can I have a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
So moved.
All right, it's moved by Mr. Clementi. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Ladati. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion's carried. The meeting, I should say that the public portion of the hearing or meeting is closed, and we are up to adjournment. So would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Okay, I have a motion by the mayor. Anyone want to second that? All right, I have a second by Mr. Demondo. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? So carried. Meeting is adjourned. Have a great night. 5 to 4.
You know,